Starting to enter in numbers. Now, with Excel, numbers can mean not only amounts, but they can mean essentially whatever you define it, really. So one thing to understand how Excel looks at numbers. It's going to look at it in terms of some type of an amount. If there's anything other than a number, it's going to interpret as text, and it's going to treat it that way. So that's one thing to understand. That is important when we get into using functions. But for right now, just keep it very basic. All we're going to be doing is just inputting standard row heading, standard text, followed by standard just regular numbers. Now, when and we'll get to this here in a minute. When you type in your numbers, okay, one thing that I want you to start to focus on is using that numerical keypad. That's off to the right-hand side there. It looks very similar, okay, and then you've got off to the right-hand side, you've got all of your little numbers there, followed by the enter key. So you've got 0, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And then you've got your minus sign, plus sign, and equal sign off to the right-hand side. That is what I want you to start to work on using here as you type in your numbers. So I'm going to show you the way to do this first. Now, obviously, you can't physically see me do it, but I want you to understand that this is being done using the numerical keypad. So I'm going to type in just the first row of numbers here. Okay, I'm going to press the Tab key, type in the next, that's actually supposed to be 61, 644. And then the last one, we're going to leave totals blank for now. Okay, so one thing that slows most of you down is typing in numbers. So trying to train yourself to use that numerical keypad is the best, because if you try to use the horizontal one, it's going to take you forever to do. So try to start working on that now. And just to save time here, give me 1 second, and then I'll have all the rest of these numbers done. Okay, so I've got my numbers in, and the first thing I want you to look at here is you might notice that some numbers only have 1 decimal place versus others. The reason this is because if you look, the number style is just set to a general style of number right now. So if there's a 0 after the decimal place, if there's a number and then a 0 following it, those zeros are just going to not show up because they don't matter. Likewise, if you can see the 0.02, the zeros will show up. That's only because of the number style right now. That will change once you actually format the number itself. So looking at our next piece, we want to sum the columns of numbers. So the Allentown, the Chambers City, those are the areas that we want to sum. So you have to understand that you have to have the empty cell below all of your columns, which is why we set up a total for row headings and for a column heading. We set up rows and columns. We set that total up for that purpose specifically. So you have to understand that you have to understand where your information is going. It's going to have to be in an empty cell, and this is going to be a formula that we're going to use. So you can see in the example here, equals, always, always, always. Every time you use a formula or a function, it has to start with the equal sign. Otherwise, it will not work. You must use the equal sign. Now, when you use the function button, it will automatically include that equal sign for you. So I always try to use the function button whenever possible, simply because it is easier to use. And then you have to understand too the range. So this B4 to B8, that is your range. Your range is separated by a column, and it's stating that I'm going to sum the range from B4 through B8. That range right there. So that is what I'm going to highlight. That is, or you can type it in. You can highlight it or type it in. But that is the range that's being calculated. And then in your total row here, it will then automatically calculate that number and display it for you. So again, two important things: understanding the range and understanding the equal sign. The importance of those two things is critical in order for you to succeed in Excel. So let's take a look. So I'm going to place my insertion point right here, and I'm going to use the auto sum button. It's over by editing, and I'm going to zoom in here to make it a little easier. I'm going to use the auto sum. I'm going to click the drop down arrow, and I'm going to click on sum. Now you're going to see this little marquee that's highlighting around. That's telling me my range. So my range is B4 to B8. I've got that highlighted. To calculate that, all I have to do is press the enter key. And now my sum is calculated. And you can see it up here in the formula bar as well. Now you can also type it in. So to show that, I can start off by pressing the equal sign, and it is right next to your backspace. I can type in that function too, equals sum, and here there are all kinds of different options, but we're going to keep things basic. You can double click on this option, or you can just type it in and have an open parenthesis. Now that open parenthesis signifies the numbers that are going to be calculated. So I want my range of B4 to B8 to be calculated. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag, and I'm going to close my parenthesis. So you can click and drag, or you can type it in as well. It's still going to give you the same result no matter what. So again, multiple ways to perform the same task. Now we've got the sum function. Now here's where a lot of you get into a little bit of trouble because you may not understand how powerful Excel actually is. So one thing to look at here, we're going to copy. Okay, we're going to copy everything that was in this cell, the first total cell that we used, and we are going to apply it all the way over. We're going to use what's called the fill handle. Fill handle is such a powerful tool in Excel. I highly encourage you to use this as much as you can. This fill handle copies all of the cell contents across or down, wherever you're going with it. Anything that's in that cell, specifically formulas. If there's a formula, it's going to copy that formula all the way across. So looking at that, you've got to have the cell that you want selected and the cell that you want copied. You've got to have that highlighted. Now if you look, my selected cell has 4 corners, obviously, but that bottom right hand corner of this cell has a little square. If you put your mouse over top of that square, your cursor is going to go from this squared white crosshair to a thin black crosshair. What that will do is transform it into your fill handle. And you click, and then you drag, and you'll see there's a little black outline that shows you where you will go. And I'm going to go through the town of Cary. and I'm going to deselect, and now all of my formulas, my sum has now been automatically calculated all the way across. And you can always double check it too if you want up here in the formula bar, or you can double click. You can double click inside to see your range. All the way across, everything looks good. Okay? So fill handle, extremely important to use. Extremely important. Something that you have to know how to use. And it's very simple to use and very powerful to use if you know how to apply it. So the next piece here for this video, we're going to calculate the sum now of the total column here. So we've calculated the total for each town, right? Now we're going to calculate the total for each event, I guess, if you will, okay, based on corporate, which I spelled wrong after just realizing that. So corporate, direct mail, fund runs, government, and the phone-a-thon. We're going to calculate the total for each one of those. And again, a different way to do it. You have to understand what you're looking to calculate. We can actually highlight this whole range and calculate the whole thing at once. So I'm going to select my range. I'm just going to click and drag, and I'm going to click on the auto sum function. Click on auto sum, and there we go. The whole thing now has been calculated. So you can see that the range goes from B4 to G4, and it only selected B4 because this is text. There aren't any numbers associated with this, so it's not going to pick it up in the algorithm. So now we have both of our totals. Totals should be very easy to work with. But again, if you have questions on it, let me know. Okay. So as far as inputting data, that is it for this project here. Everything else that we do from beyond this point in this chapter is going to be formatting based. So this first chapter is not going to be real heavy as far as inputting data. It's just showing you the basics. Okay. So the next video is where we'll introduce the formatting of the entire worksheet.